The information expressed in the following podcast is intended for educational purposes only and was created by and belongs solely to Believe Limited and the Flow podcast and does not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Please speak to your healthcare provider before making any medical decisions.
Hi, I'm Jessica and welcome to Flow. I'm here like every month with Sarah Watson, sex therapist, and this month we have Dr. Erin Ellis. We're going to talk about hormones and so much more. But first, we all want to know, how's your flow? Welcome once again to Flow. We start off Flow with a quick check-in to normalize the reality of menstruation, with just asking each other, checking in, how's your flow? Where are you in your flow, yo?
Where are you in your... Why don't we start? You never get to start. Where are you in your flow, Jess?
I'm going to go. I am flowing post-ovulatory, so luteal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm really getting into hopscotching the phases, the way we like hopscotch days of the week. So we're like Friday. I'm like luteal yay. Luteal yay?
Luteal yay. Okay.
Yodely? It's like a yodely yay. Yodely yay. No.
Yeah. I think I'm luteal too.
Good
but
about
I
it.
don't. Yeah. Dr. Erin, I have an IUD, so I do not flow. So sometimes I'm very clear about where I am. Not so much this month. So luteal yay.
That can happen.
Yeah, totally. That's totally normal for me. So how about you, Dr.
totally
Erin?
normal.
Where are you in your flow?
I'm in ovulatory phase, which is
Ooh.
the best time to do a podcast.
Yes.
So you got me in a great flow state for my hormones.
I like it.
Wait, that begs the question, in a different flow state, the hormones would be like, no cameras, no thank you, no microphones, no talking, or would just be a little bit more effort to have to.
Yeah, a little more effort, maybe a little bit more tongue-tied and not as on it as ovulatory phase if it was any other phase, specifically like around menstruation.
Smash cut to every time Sarah and I have been recording during those phases and flubbed things. Well, as we like to say on Flow, it doesn't matter if you're menstruating or not. Your flow is about how your hormones go, and we're going to get into more of that right after this quick break.
This ad is brought to you by Von Vendi, Von Willebrand Factor Recombinant.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I didn't always feel empowered to speak up for myself or ask for the care and support I needed. Becoming part of a community and hearing other people's experiences helped to change my perspective. That's why my deciding factor is making my voice heard. To hear my story and access other helpful resources, drop by Von Vendi, that's VONVENDI.com/patient-stories.
And we're back, flowing with Dr. Erin Ellis and, of course, Sarah Watson. Sarah, you're in Michigan.
I am.
I just wanted to bring that up because Flo might be in Michigan soon. I'm in Los Angeles today. Dr. Erin Ellis, where are you coming in from?
I'm in Arizona.
AZ, okay.
I'm in the desert. I'm next door.
It's hot there.
Very.
Like how hot? I do want to know.
I think today is supposed to be like 108 or 9 or something.
Sweet.
Yeah, we've had a pretty hot summer. And now we're in monsoon season. So monsoons are like these afternoon thunderstorms, which are nice, but then it makes it really humid.
Ugh.
So then we've got the extreme heat with some humidity, which is not a lot of fun.
I do think we should do a special on just menstruating in different geographical environments and how that impacts flows. That would be compelling.
Yep.
Did you grow up in Arizona? And I ask because I'm curious if menstrual education coming to be menstruating in such an environment was specific.
No, I grew up outside of DC, but I've been back here since 1992. But no, I did not grow up here. I was born here.
Copy. But so you began menstruating in DC.
No, I think I was in Virginia.
Okay.
When I started my menstrual cycle. Well, you know what? I did not. I remember I started at my grandma's house, actually here, but I wasn't living here. I was out visiting my grandma.
Tell us more.
Can we pretend we're at a sleepover? All right. And?
Yeah. I mean, I just remember my mom telling me that I was going to start, my period sometime and I was going to bleed from my vagina. And that was pretty much all she told me. And I remember being at my grandma's house and having these pains in my abdomen, thinking like, oh, is this cramps? I mean, it was the first time. And then I started my period. That's really all that I remember about it. But yeah, I remember not being around my mom. I was around my grandma when it happened. But I think she flew like my brother and me out, over the summer. I don't remember how many years we did that, but yeah, I remember starting my period here, but I was not living here.
How did grandma respond? What did she?
That I don't even know. I don't know if I told her.
Oh,
I don't know.
oh,
I honestly don't
yeah.
remember.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. I don't remember starting
Yeah.
mine either. I don't have like a
Yeah.
distinct memory. I remember like before, right, when I was like wanting to start my period, and I've told the story where I would go and like close the tampon boxes and the pad boxes in, like in the stalls, but I don't remember.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted
Oh my
it.
God.
Silly me.
Flashback to Sarah's youth would make a great commercial for some menstrual product company. Just that scene playing out. I'm like,
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Wait.
Yeah,
Click,
I
click,
can't wait. Yeah.
I mean,
Did
that's
you-
good
yeah.
that you actually wanted your period, because there's so many women that hate their period.
Yes.
How did you feel about yours, Dr. Erin, when it showed
Yeah.
up?
I mean, it was fine. I don't,
fine.
I've been very blessed with not having a whole lot of menstrual issues, as far as, heaviness and a lot of cramps and debilitating things. I did do birth control for several years, only because my parents were afraid to send me off to college without birth control. But yeah, I had, knock on wood, and now I'm in perimenopausal years and it's still fine so far. But I also know what to do and how to take care of myself and how to do all of the things to make sure that the hormones are, balanced.
Life hacks. So how did you do that?
How? Well, I mean, it
Yeah.
depends.
How?
I mean, I would say, a lot of it is diet, a lot of it is sleep. Most of it is, I guess, in the grand umbrella of lifestyle. Stress management is huge. I think that's the first question I ask everyone when they say they start having irregular cycles, or wait, why did I all of a sudden have two periods in a month, or why is this one going on for so long, or why did I skip a period, or whatever the case may be. I'm like, well, how's your stress? And I would say probably 99% of the time they've had some sort of event happen, or maybe they traveled, or new job, or maybe a trauma or a death or something like that. And I said, well, it's probably why your cycle's a little bit off, because as women, like we're so sensitive to external stressors and factors. So stress, I would say, would probably be the biggest thing. And that's affected my cycle. As far as I remember back in 2020 with, the pandemic and all of that being a very stressful event, I think for everyone, just the unknown. I had it's like September of that year, I had a very long cycle, like a 46-day cycle. And that is not normal for me. And
46 days. Sorry,
yeah,
that's what you
and
said.
I'm
Okay.
normally 28, like on the button, maybe 27, sometimes 26, but very, very regular as far as when it comes. And I think the stress of just the whatever going on during that time, affected the cycle. Same thing with there was another recent time that I had a longer cycle or a shorter cycle, and I think it was just due to some increased stress. So I'm always evaluating, month to month, like, well, what was different about this month than last month? And that's how I educate, my patients too. It said, well, we might not be regular all of the time, but we want to be regular most of the time. And when we're irregular, then we're like, well, what happened that last month?
Right.
Or the month before that could have thrown off the hormones a little bit to affect the menstrual cycle.
Which takes a lot of vigilance, a lot of self-awareness, a lot of tracking, a lot of knowing all elements of your environment to be able to see when different things are happening.
Yeah, and that's so important. Even for you, Sarah, without, really a menstrual cycle with IUD, it's still important to track symptoms, because then you know where you are and you can use your hormones to work for you and not against you. And then you can start tracking some irregularities and maybe some symptoms that you shouldn't be having. And then we can see the trends over time and go from there. So yeah, I mean, I say with anything, awareness is the first thing we need to do. And there's so many women that don't even know, like they just kind of just go with the flow, and don't really understand what's happening during their menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we have in common, right? I talk so often with my clients about, they go, well, why don't I want to have sex? Well, what's going on in your life? Oh, you have 4 children and 3 of them are very little and in activities, and you're managing a house and this and that. And they're like, oh yeah. And it's just like, it's this education that as women, we generally
Yeah.
just kind of push on through, and it
Mhm.
does our body and our libido and just our relationship to self and others no good to push through.
Nope.
In my book.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. I see that all the time. And a lot of women are like, oh, it's got to be my testosterone.
Yeah, no.
Like, your testosterone's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I said there's a lot more to libido than just testosterone.
Huh.
Louder, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Well, so tell us more about which hormones do you hear women coming in talking about? Which ones are the most known? Patients are coming to you saying testosterone is something they want to look into, or
Yeah, estrogen's a big one.
estrogen?
A lot. I would say, I don't even know a percentage, but upwards of 80 to 90% of my patients have some sort of excess estrogen. And I think a lot of that has to do with our environment and all of the toxins we're exposed to. And then secondary, liver metabolism and detox of the estrogen. It's not necessarily that we're always exposed to a lot of estrogen. It's just our body needs support to help metabolize and detox it from our body, which a lot of times we don't even know that we need to do, and that our livers, does metabolize our hormones and even our gut too. So that's where naturopathic medicine shines, is by looking at all of that and saying like, oh, well, how's your gut? Or,
Right.
are you like, what are you doing for liver function and liver metabolism? And what else is impacting all of that? Because your liver does everything. It's filtering everything you put in your body, on your body, around your body, your hormones, everything. So it's doing so much. And if you have a whole lot going on, or maybe not sleeping, which is a big thing, like your body's not going to be able to do the things that it needs to do. So then we just have an excess of a lot of stuff that we don't want. So starting there is really where it is. But I would say probably estrogen is the number one, and then secondary would be progesterone deficiency, whether that's from maybe not ovulating, but then why are we not ovulating? Is it due to stress? Is it due to, ovarian dysfunction? Is it due to PCOS? Right. But then again, it's like, well, we can fix it. We just need to know where the imbalances are and what's driving these things to happen. And then I would say tertiary or third would be probably testosterone. But I see most testosterone deficiency late 30s, early 40s. Typically early 30s, 20s, not as much. But I mean, it's estimated that in your 40s, you have about half the amount of testosterone that you did in your 20s. So for women, it's, it is an important hormone. We just don't need as much of it as men do, but we still need it.
Well,
so yeah, but then go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm so curious. Thank you so much for this intel. It's like you're triaging all the things. I'm going to pretend like I don't know anything. And I'm curious, like, what does that look like in the body when there's not enough testosterone? What does it look like in the body when there's
so
not
again,
enough
it could go back to libido. Okay. It could go with energy. It could go with just simple drive and motivation. A lot of times women just lose, luster in life. They lack motivation. They're like, I don't enjoy the things that I used to do anymore. That happens more in menopause when the ovaries are completely tanked. I see it a lot of inability to lose weight or even gain muscle. So my high performing women that, exercise a lot and are lifting weights, they're like, well, I'm working out really hard in the gym, but I'm not really seeing any progress. And then I'm like, well, your testosterone's in the toilet. That's probably why. Because they tell you to lift weights to boost testosterone. Right. But as we age, I mean, we have the ovarian function as a, competing disadvantage there. Like they're not as robust as they were in our 20s and 30s, like where they're slowing down a little bit. So they're not producing as much hormone. But then we're also looking at that big umbrella of stress. So stress is going to pull all of these hormones and steal it and use it. So that's, typically the underlying issue that I find is we've just got so much stress. And it's not so much that like everyone has stress. It's just important how we manage it. And a lot of women are not managing it, or they use exercise as management. And that's not, in my opinion, the best, because exercise is also a stressor. It's a good stressor. But if we're already in, just hormone dysfunction or hormone disadvantage, it could be a little bit worse for us or do more harm than good.
An attempt to cope, but actually not helping the cause.
Yep. And that's, I swear, every time I ask a woman, like, well, how do you manage your stress? They're like, oh, I exercise. I'm like, well, we might want to
I don't count that either.
The intensity of the exercise you're doing.
Right.
Exercise is good, but
and if you have that lower testosterone, does that mean you're going to have higher estrogen? Like, how do they interchange?
Not always.
Not always.
It depends. It could be that you might convert. So for a good example of that is, men, and we do testosterone replacement therapy, and then we watch to make sure they don't convert to estrogen, because they can, and they oftentimes will. Same with women. We might be converting the testosterone to estrogen, but I typically see that more if we're like replacing it rather than just, a normal functioning body. But that's where the liver metabolism and, having that on, play, or making sure the liver is functioning well is super important.
Yeah, detox. Is there any like easy way to detox that you find patients have success with?
I usually try and just encourage a lot of dietary things as far as increasing fiber. Fiber really helps bind to estrogen and helps us excrete it from the body. But also fiber is really healthy for our gut. It's helpful for bowel movements. And if we, have healthy bowel movements, then we're going to excrete excess toxins and hormones and all of that. Sweat is always a good idea. Sweating, if you're not sweating, then we've got an issue, because we have 3 routes of excretion. We have sweat, pee, and poo. So most everyone's urinating, but we want to make sure that we're hydrating properly. And then pooping would be the second, probably most, problematic areas. We're not pooping daily. And I'm like, well, I got to get you to poop. I don't want you to detox. And if we're not excreting, we've got to make sure we're excreting. And then sweating, most women are doing that to some extent as far as exercise goes, but they can take it, a little further and maybe do some sauna therapy or hot baths or things like that to really get toxins out.
Lymphatic drainage.
Yeah.
Drainage. Oh my gosh, that's been life-changing. Anyway.
Yeah. So important.
Can we back up? Can we hear, like, how did you, I did digging on your website, Dr. Erin, but can you tell us, like, how you came to this work and, like, what happened in your life that kind of led you to this path? Because it's so important and we don't have enough people doing it. I don't think so. How did you land here? What happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't really, being a naturopathic doctor wasn't really my first career choice. But I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I got my degree in business. But I before that, I wanted to do something in the medical field. I wanted to be a trauma room surgeon for some odd reason. But then I realized I didn't want to be in school for a million years. So gave up on that, and then worked in the bars and restaurants and got my undergrad in business. But then in 2010, 14 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and the type of lymphoma I had was typically found in older men. I was a 31-year-old female, so did not fit that picture. And I was diagnosed in February of 2010 and deemed cancer-free in July of the same year, so 6 months later. Wow. And it really opened my eyes to health and wellness. And I met a naturopathic doctor shortly after that. And I didn't know anything about naturopathic medicine, as, a lot of people don't. And I said, what is a naturopathic doctor? And then she told me about how, you can treat the root cause of things and you can prevent things from happening. You can treat more naturally rather than giving, a pharmaceutical or what I call like a pill for your ill. But most importantly, getting to the root of why things are happening. So I was super intrigued. And then she told me there was a school about 12 minutes from where I was living at the time here in Arizona. And I was like, this is too good to be true. So I went there just to see what it would be like to get in. And I really only needed, with all my pre-med that I had done to be a trauma room surgeon, I only needed 2 more classes to get into the school. So I went back and did a couple of prereqs, and then started medical school in 2013 and graduated in 2017. So I've been in practice now for 7 years, but I didn't want to do anything women's health related, because during school, when I was learning about women's health, it was really hard. And if you think about it, we are hard, like women are hard, and hormones are hard, and every body and every woman's body is different. And so why would I want to do something hard, right? I mean, nobody wants to do anything that's hard. I mean, medical school was hard enough. So I thought I wanted to do cancer care, because that's what, I went through. And then when I was out in practice, I really started to fall in love with women's health and really saw a need for it, because as I've continued to, build my practice and, see things and hear things on social media and do podcasts and all this, it's like women's healthcare truly is broken. And menstrual health is like an elephant in the room. It's like nobody talks about it. It's just, maybe embarrassing to a lot of people, and it's been normalized. And it's just, women are given the worst information I've ever heard about their menstrual health. And so many women are suffering, and they hate their menstrual cycle. They hate how they feel probably, 3 weeks out of the month. Maybe they have a good week, one good week out of the month. And I'm like, this needs to change. And so that's why I really shifted my practice and my education around menstrual health, and, helping women realize that the symptoms they're experiencing aren't normal, even though they think it's normal, and that we can fix it. And I'm sorry to tell you, but birth control and surgery is not going to fix anything. So it might just be a Band-Aid and mask things, but we need to figure out what's causing the imbalances, because your symptoms are messages, and your period should come and go. And it should just be more of a nuisance than anything, and not disrupt your life. You should be able to do the things you want to do. And maybe you feel a little bit tired, which is completely normal. But also too, like figuring out, fertility purposes too. I'm not a fertility specialist by any means, but I've come to realize that a lot of women think they can get pregnant every single day of the month. And I'm like, no, there's only like a certain, few days, 5-6 days out of the month that you can get pregnant. And that's where it's very important to track, and, teaching women about tracking cycles. Like, even if you don't want to have a baby, we can still do natural family planning and, fertility awareness method. And that way you learn so much about your body, rather than taking a pill or an IUD or something like that, that's really going to disrupt your hormones and your natural, production of things. So in a nutshell, that's how I really got to where I'm at, and why I love talking about it. I've learned too, with the way I have to put my messaging out, it's different. I can't say like, oh, do you suffer from heavy periods? Because so many women think their flow is normal. Yeah. Like, holy cow, that's so heavy. That is not normal. They're like, what? I'm like, no, that's way too heavy. Like, there's so many women that I see in practice that are like, I have to wear a tampon and a pad. I call it a tampad. I'm like, well, do you wear both because you're going to leak? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, sometimes I can't leave the house. I'm like, that's not normal. And they're like, huh?
Yeah,
like,
well,
my doctor
shocking.
told me it was.
I know.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, it's awful. The things that I hear online, it's like, oh my goodness.
The silent endurance of pain, and then also the dismissal of those who are acknowledging their pain.
Dismissal
and being encouraged to be silent is quite atrocious. Yeah.
Yeah. And so women are just left with, they feel like there's nothing they can do, and that's just the way it is. And, that's why I keep screaming louder in the back, like, no, you don't have to suffer. And even with like PCOS is a good example. Like, women are stuck. They're stuck in their head that they have PCOS and they're going to have it forever. Yeah. It's like, well, we can fix it. It can be reversed. You can have kids. Like, and even with endometriosis, I've seen a lot of women get pregnant with endometriosis. It's like, we need to figure out what is driving these things. It's hormone imbalances or some sort of pathological thing that we can fix. We just need to figure out what it is and get to the root of it, rather than just being like, well, that's just the way it is. I have PCOS, so I'm just going to have abnormal hair growth and irregular periods the rest of my life.
Right. And
No,
as we
thank
know
you.
on this show with so many of our patient and listener
Mhm.
contributors, that extreme periods can also be caused by a bleeding disorder. By a
Mhm.
hemoglobin
Yes,
deficient,
I have seen that. Yep. And it's like, well, if we identify that, then we know how to manage it.
Right.
You don't have to suffer is like
No,
the
right.
big
Enough.
thing. It's like you don't and that goes with anything in life. It does not even just your flow. It's, you don't need to suffer. You should be able to sleep. You should be able to have all the energy from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed and not feel exhausted. You shouldn't be gaining weight, if you haven't been doing anything different. Like there's a reason why these things happen. We just need to figure it out and dig a little deeper and get there. But we can figure it out. And that's what I love doing. I'm like your own little health detective.
That's great.
I like a health detective. And now I'm like, and I need to be my own detective because I'm like, oh, I'm having some of those symptoms. Like it's really frustrating and being like, okay, what's going on? And then making the time to do it. And then the stress of the job and the kid and the family and the business. And
yeah, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And most women, especially my moms, they always put themselves last. And it's not your fault. That's just what women do.
Right.
But there comes a time and a place where you need to take care of yourself and you need to get to the root of, why you don't feel the way you feel, because you need to be able to do the things that you are capable of doing so that you can keep up with everybody else in your family.
It's just a thing moms do because of like a $3 trillion propaganda machine that's indoctrinated women to believe that's their primary role. And trying to exist in a society where your environment might also be contributing to your menstrual issue, and your environment might have pollution issues and systemic collective issues, that as good as we are at knowing our own individual bodies, we do need to tap into what can be environmentally challenging us, because there's a lot of power in realizing where those environmental factors are applying to all of us.
You said might. It's not a might. It's a 100% it is affecting. Unless you live in some bubble, which nobody is.
Right.
Just mentally.
Yeah. We in the forest.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, with
off the grid.
Yeah, off the grid.
It'd be so nice.
But kind of close to the ocean because I want to swim too, but we'll see.
But still, the cities are close enough that living in that bubble might be impacted by what is going on.
100%.
Sure.
100%. What would you say are environmental factors that we can think about, Dr. Erin? What are some things?
Yeah, so a lot of it is, the products that we use as women every single day. A lot of it is our food. A lot of it is, especially here in Arizona, our air quality.
Sure.
We live in, it's called the valley. So the air goes like down and it just stays there. Right. So the air quality is awful. What else? Cleaning products, like anything, your detergents, plastics, to-go food. I mean, seed oil, like there's just so many things. If you really just paid attention to what you do on a daily, but even Wi-Fi, like doing this, EMF exposure, all of it, it's all affecting our hormones. And that's where there's a lot of things. I just say, like, we can't control everything, but there's a lot of things that we can control. And it starts with what you are in control of. So what you put in your mouth, what you put on your skin, what is around you and that you're inhaling. Those are the things that you can control. So just make, small steps. But first, I think it's, we need to recognize and be aware of it.
Right.
So we might not even know that we're, constantly being exposed to a toxin every single day that, we might be able to eliminate, or whatever the case may be, replace. Maybe you're putting something on your skin every day that's getting absorbed that you're like, oh crap, this has got a lot of, endocrine disruptors in it. And your endocrine system is your entire hormone system,
right?
Your thyroid, your adrenals, your stress hormone, your reproductive hormones. So just being aware of, that, I think, is the first step. And then making, small changes is where you should start. Next time you need a new shampoo, say, all right, well, let me check out the one that I have, do my research, Google things, there's different apps you can use to see, cleanliness of things and how safe, products are. There's tons of Facebook groups that you can get information from and be like, all right, well, this is an okay choice. I could do better.
Sure.
And that's, again, like nothing, I don't think you could be 100% perfect. I don't know anyone that is. And we know that perfection is really not something that we want to strive for that, but as long as you can just do the best that you can. I mean, we're all human. We're going to be exposed to it. It's just, there's a lot of things that you can control. So we're just, I forget the number of chemicals. I want to say like 300 is ringing in my brain from something I read recently. You're exposed to like over 300 different chemicals a day. Don't quote me on that. Sure. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's in my subconscious here. So it's coming out. But yeah, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
So it's all affecting our hormones.
Is there anything that like immediately comes to mind when you think about like kind of your household of like what's something maybe you could get rid of that is probably pretty toxic that maybe not the average person would know?
Ooh, good question. Something toxic you can get rid of. Kick me on the spot.
Sorry.
You know what? I guess the one random thing that comes to my brain, and I see it a lot, even in like Airbnbs are a good one I see it at. So I'm assuming it would be in houses. Are those stupid plugins?
Yes, I was going to ask.
Or some sort of like candle. Anything that emits like that smell and that synthetic scent.
Yeah.
Well, they really say like anything that elicits a smell besides like essential oils are toxic to us.
Okay.
So if you have a detergent that's very smelly, it's probably not good for you. But the first thing that came to my mind is those stupid plugins.
Yeah.
They're disgusting. They've actually like done research on them that they're carcinogenic, which is, cancer causing.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking those and candles. So I was hoping I was like,
yeah,
I'm like, I think I'm right, but I don't know. I was like, that's something immediately that can go, right? Like,
yeah, or replace it with something different, like have some essential oils around your house, or maybe those diffuser sticks.
Yes,
I mean,
like
there's better options.
Okay.
So that's where it's like, you don't have to, same thing with food.
Right.
It's like, well, you can buy this, but there's a better option.
Yes.
So
yes,
just being aware of it, I guess, is again, the first step.
Right.
Being aware and talking to each other about what we learn, because it will still be sold on a shelf. And so to like discern these things and like relying on the talking about it to each other to discern such things is so important.
Yes.
If you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, is there anything you would tell her when you were starting to menstruate at your grandma's?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't have children, but if I had a daughter, I would educate her right away about her menstrual cycle and what's going to happen and how her hormones can fluctuate every single day, because my hormones today weren't really the same they were yesterday, and they probably aren't the same tomorrow. So that's where, as women, if we understand that and what happens throughout our entire menstrual cycle, and when I say menstrual cycle, I mean from like the day you start bleeding again until the next day you start bleeding. It's a whole cycle, and our hormones change throughout that. Then we're able to understand what's going on, maybe with our productivity, maybe with our work performance, maybe with our energy, maybe with our sleep, maybe with like how our clothes fit. And then we can give ourselves some grace and be like, whoa, okay, why am I so tired today? Where am I in my cycle? Then we go back and we're like, oh yeah, all right, it's going to start in like 2 or 3 days. Then it's like, okay,
makes sense.
It's not because I didn't sleep well or whatever. I'm not going to try and power through. It's just, you give your body, you give yourself grace because you know where you are, and you don't beat yourself up for trying to fight something that you're not supposed to because your hormones are either low or high or whatever the case may be. So I think that's what I would do. Also, like pointing out more about the abnormalities and the normalcies of periods and like what really is abnormal.
Yeah.
So that way we can not suffer and not, dread. Like the teenagers growing up right now, I mean, they're having atrocious periods. And I think a lot of it is due to our environment. And they don't need to suffer. And I've had some moms that, have told me about their daughters and they're missing school. And like, this is not okay.
No.
And there's a reason why, like, their periods are so awful. So let's, fix it. And they're so young that if we fix it now, instead of putting them on slapping birth control, that's going to cause some issues, more and more issues, now and then down the road. It's like, well, just starting with the education I think would be the first step. And I didn't get that education. I don't think it's any fault for, how I was brought up or my mom. It just wasn't available. And they don't teach you these things in school.
Mm-mm.
They teach you sex ed, but
barely.
there's really not like any class about hormones or menstruation. At least I didn't get that.
Right. No. I was just saying, sex ed is just so it's not good either. I mean, sex and menstruation.
Well, yeah, that's not good
just
either.
awful. It's awful.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
again, I don't even remember that class. And it's also something that's like very embarrassing, and you like giggle and you're like, well, we have sex ed when we're like so young that it's not even a thought. But we're probably menstruating by then. So
Right.
that's probably a little bit more of an importance. And then also too, like, I think like educating men
Yes.
about what women go through is so important, and they think it's gross.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we can't help it. This is what happens. They don't even know what happens. And then they just think that we're crazy and we're losing our minds because our emotions are all over the place. And it's like, well, yeah, that can happen. But, they don't know anything.
Right.
So they should learn about what we go through just so they can help support us or educate, your partner or even the boys, the young boys growing up about it. Because it's important that they realize that this happens to women and it's different for us than it is for them.
Right.
Yeah, because we're all taught that the human body is a man's body as opposed to the human body of the way a woman. So imagine if like we didn't poop and then we were like found out that men did and we were like, that's so gross. It's like, that's literally how I get nutrients and then pass them through my body. And this is literally not even something I'm putting in, just something generating in my body, pushing out. The idea that that's abnormal, it's not anyone's fault who was raised here in this time period. But you know what I mean? Like, we've been taught for so long not that the woman's body is secondary.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Well, and that's what the research has been on, right? Like, it's been on men's bodies. It's not been on the female body. So, ugh.
Nope. And we're not tiny men.
We're not tiny men. Is that what you just
We are
said?
not tiny men.
Yeah, and that's what in just what you said, there's no research. Same thing with like the diets and all of that. It's like none of it has been done on women, and we're not tiny men.
Absolutely not.
So we can't do something that was researched and shown to be effective for a man because we're completely different.
Completely.
And combining with your wonderful statement that it should not be normalized to have to miss school, and at the same time, period leave is being normalized, and that is a good thing, because the idea that actually it could be quite normal to want 3 days off of the schedule that's been prescribed by the industrial complex. It's quite normal for the body as part of nature to need to rest and not to need to be in hyperdrive during the 3 to 5 days when it wants rest because of the bleeding that's happening. So a certain like shift into, oh, it's so rough that we have to take time off. And also, no, it's so normal that we should take 3 days to focus on the bleed. Maybe that's what would make our hormones the rest of the cycle be more balanced, as opposed to trying to stress them through the time of resting.
Yes, as long as the leave is being used for that. Like just being like, oh, I'm a little bit down today, not because I can't leave my house because I'm bleeding profusely and I'm afraid to leave the house because I'm going to leak.
Right.
Like that's not okay.
That shouldn't just have period leave. Right.
That's true. If you're using it because your like estrogen and progesterone are at their lowest and we don't have, the energy and the drive that we should any other time of our cycle, then I'm all for that. But if it's anything outside of that, like debilitating cramps, you're in the fetal position, you have diarrhea, you're throwing up, like,
that's a problem. Not normal.
That's a problem. We need to fix that.
Yeah. It needs attention and conversation. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Dr. Erin?
Anywhere. I'm on social media. I love social media. That's how I found you all. It was like, I'm going to randomly search things and I came across your platform. I was like, oh, I need to reach out and see if I can get on the pod. So thank you for having me. But Instagram at dr.dr.erinellis. I'm on TikTok, same handle. Website, drerinellis.com. I have a freebie of a menstrual cycle nutrition guide that I think I gave you guys a link to. You can put in the show notes.
Well,
but you can find that on my social media platforms as well. So that's helpful if you don't know where to start with your menstrual cycle. You can use nutrition to help balance your hormones throughout your menstrual cycle. But I'm an open book. Feel free to reach out. I love connecting with other ladies, just answering questions and helping direct and drive them in the right direction.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Thanks
You're
for being
welcome.
here.
Beautiful
Yeah.
round of applause. Well, Flowsters, we'll see you next month where we have a very special episode. October is live in Michigan.
Yay.
Stay tuned for more.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, right? Flow is produced by Bloodstream Media. Big shout out to our creative director, Amy Board, and our editor, Kay Vermeil. New episodes of Flow will be available the second Thursday of every month.
Hey, that's the day after I start menstruating.
And thanks to our sponsor, Takeda, for their support of Flow.